Good evening and welcome to Basketbros. I am your host slash moderator, Denzel Snipes, and we've got a loaded show to you, and we also got a special guest coming back to us live from Detroit, Michigan himself. You will find out who that is when we do our commentary intros. So, we are coming to you live from Sideline Sports on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, DBTV, and Stream TV. And Stream TV all week long, you'll see replays of our latest and greatest from Sideline Sports. Of course, if you hit the like and subscribe button and follow us on YouTube, you can go and just pretty much pick any video and plug and play. Okay, so make sure you are doing your due diligence and following us and keeping us with the latest and hottest from Sideline Sports. But this is Basketbros. And as of late, we've been dipping and dabbing a little bit more into today's, even though our core has been throwback basketball. We've got we're 31 flavors. We're like a second Baskin Robbins. So how about it? Let's go ahead and bring these guys in here. And coming up, he just got a haircut, so he looks like Vince McMahon but younger. Jacob Christner, come on in.
Yeah, you talk about that you're full, and yet you bring up the 31 flavors. I don't think you're full.
I'll have room for dessert maybe here in a minute.
Oh, okay. And as far as Vince, I need the mustache, but no, I don't think so.
No, don't do that. No, we need 1998 Vince when he first went against Austin.
Yeah,
not
you jacked up.
Yeah, not fake Three Amigos Vince.
Yeah.
And coming up now, he is the captain of the South Florida Tribune Starship. Check him out on Wednesdays with the Sports Exchange. Loaded show on the South Florida Tribune on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Come on in here. He just got off from covering the Pirates-Marlins game. Marlins brought home the dub, and he's got some bragging rights, at least for 24 hours. This is Scott Motor City Mad Mouth Morganroth. And he's got a new hat.
That's it, Motor City Madmouth. I was even going with the Marlins PR people, showing them my hat. They liked it, actually. I said, that's my on-air name. I had a former relative give it to me, and I ended up doing good with it, so now I kept it. And hell, they didn't care. I mean, Marlins are PR communications people, are great to work with, but yeah, it won 2-0, and we're playing good ball under a rookie manager, Skip Schumacher. But today, what was cool about it was this young kid named Yuri Perez had 9 strikeouts and 1 walk in 6 innings. So, we have some good players here. We really, really do. And I can tell you right now, I wasn't sure what to expect out of this team going into the year without Don Mattingly, but Kim Ng has slowly crafted a team real well, and a little more success that she has, the better it'll be for females later on. But yeah,
all credit to her. All credit to her.
Yeah.
I was personally, and I will absolutely admit it, you guys heard me. I thought she had 2 years just because of the whole Derek Jeter deal. She's got another, and she's making the best of it. So now she's going to give all the chances to women now.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a separate topic for another show, but I really am glad I'm working with these people. They're the only ones I cover on a regular basis because I have more responsibilities coming from other areas. But baseball is my heart and soul, and I love being a part of this sport as long as I can. Love talking basketball, football, and hockey one time, but baseball's king for me. So.
Absolutely. And
even though I'm saying I'm Basketbros.
Yeah.
Baseball bros.
Hey, but at least you got, 108 stitches and all. So there's that. You know what I mean? But we're going to go ahead and get started. Oh, shoot. I forgot. We got a special guest. He's the king of Detroit. He might not be Eminem, but he's got published books out there, people. Come on in here, George Eichorn. Let's go.
I need Eichorn at 8 Mile. Have to.
Hey, Jens, you better let this guy promote his book early. That way, in case we get into a time jackpot here, at least you know how to do it.
Oh,
you know what? Before we get started, go.
Well, the Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the air. Yeah. It's a book that puts you in contact with all the living sports broadcasters in Detroit and Michigan history. Our friend Ernie Harwell and Van Patrick, who did the Lions, Bud Lynch, who did the Red Wings, just to name a few. It's a great little book to have, and it's available at the South Florida Tribune website. I write for Scott under the Motor City Tribune banner, And at the end of my column, you'll see a link to connect to purchase a copy of the book. But it's a great read. It has all the history of Detroit sports media in it, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So pick up a copy if you can, or like I said, get the link off of the Motor City Tribune, or you could also go to Amazon.com, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And Scott is in the book. He's featured in interview pictures with Muhammad Ali and with Jimmy Connors. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. So all y'all get out there and grab this book. It is a steal. Treasure, a national treasure. I don't know if I'll equate it to the golden. Yes, it is. It's like golden Fort Knox. So go pick it up, okay?
I thought you were going to say
so,
Golden Girls. I thought you were going to say Golden Girls there.
Only if it's Blanche.
Oh, what the hell, right?
All right. And there's one of our own right here. Shout out to Will Vogel, who totally wrecked his perfect attendance on the show. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, his last minute perfect attendance.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I totally was expecting him to pop up and be like, yeah, guys. And I'm still expecting him to come on like any time backstage.
Like last two.
Hey, but I'm going to tell you something about this guy. He's found a niche with me over in the chat room. Let me tell you, this guy is unbelievable. So, you know what? He's got immense raw talent as a broadcaster, but he has natural talent in the chat room.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Yeah, it gets better every time. It does.
Yeah.
Yep. Every single time. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. And just really quick, and this is our 2023 NBA draft recap, of course, place this past weekend. And those of you all who don't know about some of the selections, there's been a hot commodity coming out of France that was selected number 1 overall by the San Antonio Spurs out of Metropolitans 92, Victor Wembanyama. He is the 7 foot, I think 7'4" or 7'5". Yeah, 7'5". Yep, he's the second tallest player drafted after Yao Ming. Then also who went in at number 2 overall was Brandon Miller to the Charlotte Hornets from the University of Alabama. Awesome pickup. Scoot Henderson went 3rd to Portland out of the G League Unite. Amin Thompson went to the Houston Rockets out of the Overtime Elite City Reapers. His twin brother, Alcer Thompson, went to your Pistons, George and Scott. He come from the City Reapers. Anthony Black went 6th to the Orlando Magic out of Arkansas. Bilal, I can't say that last name. Koulibaly. There's another one out of France. He went to Indiana. Jarris Walker went to Washington Wizards from University of Houston. Taylor Hendricks went to Utah Jazz from UCF. And Cason Wallace went to the Mavericks via trade from Oklahoma City to Kentucky. Those are your top 10. Let's go around the board. George, your thoughts about the draft and your thoughts on Thompson, on Alcer Thompson? Yep, Alcer Thompson going to the Pistons.
Yeah, I thought most of the first picks were obviously predictable. You know, the first guys taken. And when they got to the Pistons, there was a lot of discussion about what they were actually looking for. So they picked up Alcer Thompson after his brother was drafted right before in the draft. And the thing that struck a note here, at least in Detroit, was the fact that this guy's a good defender. And Troy Weaver, the general manager, stressed that in the welcome press conference that we need help defensively, which all you guys know, as we kind of beat up Dwayne Casey this past season for that lack of Pistons defense. And I'm telling you what, it's going over real well. Thompson's pick, I think, Alcer's, was a good pick for Detroit. The kid's got a lot of ability, a lot of good things about him, but he definitely defends very, very well, and that's what the Pistons were looking for. So although some people had others on the radar screen, I think the Pistons did a wise choice in taking him.
Absolutely. You know, anything that, you know, and I know Scott has had his outs with Dom as far as Dwayne Casey in the front office, you know, figuring, you know, you got to start somewhere. And you know what better of a start than this? Get a young kid fresh out of the draft and add to the core that you already have. But I want to swing it to Scott right here. And your thoughts on the draft in general, if anything, about Thompson coming to the Pistons. And, you know, your thoughts on what Dwayne Casey was maybe thinking with that move.
Hey, George, tell me the guy that they drafted at 25th that they got in that trade.
Marcus Sasser. And again, another guard. I don't
University
know
of
too
Houston.
much.
He's a shooter.
Yeah,
Right.
he's a
So then
shooter.
when you compare
Yeah.
those two picks, I know they gave up a second round pick to do it. The reality of the situation is, to draft fifth, this is what you get, okay, for finishing with the worst record in the NBA. Oh, Nelly, as Keith Jackson would say. That's what you get for finishing with the worst record. So I know I'll talk about this in a future edition of the Sports Exchange. I know Jacob and I have talked about talking pundits, but we'll talk about tanking. Yeah, okay. You really tank for this. But, again, they've been rated as a B. I don't really take anybody's ratings in the draft worth anything until you put the kids on the floor. They're going to be in summer league. You pray there's no injury there. And again, I don't want to say I badmouth Dwayne Casey. I mean, Dwayne Casey did everything they asked him to do, develop these younger players. Reality is they had to make a change. It would have been on a 1-year lame duck contract. And it just shows that Tom Gores went out there and broke the bank, and he's a wealthy man out of Beverly Hills to get Monty Williams. And it was a great hire, as well as the assistants that they brought in. So it'll be a very interesting Pistons team come 2023-24. That's all I can tell you. As far as the rest of the draft, San Antonio got the player that is highly coveted. But, when you talk about big men that are over 7 feet in the draft, you have to wonder, if you look at the history of them, like Sean Bradley, Yao Ming, Sam Bowie, and guys like that, you just hope and pray that they're not Jack and the Beanstalk, or as one or the other one, what do they call him? Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall and took a big fall. You don't want to see these guys get cursed by injuries. You really don't. So we'll see. I mean, San Antonio made out well, but we'll see what happens with the Pistons. I think that you have a good coaching staff and a team that wants to win. Now, can Monty Williams at least see a significant improvement? I don't see any reason why not.
Yeah, very true. And then the last thing, I want to go to Jacob here, and and one question in particular, because we're looking at what San Antonio's doing, and I mean, already the comparisons are going to come in and saying that the pressure is on Pop and whatnot. Can he do it without Tim Duncan? And now he's got this highly touted kid out of France. So on a scale of I love the 1 to 10 year, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how much pressure do you think is put on Pop to make this guy successful and to prove he can do it without Tim Duncan?
-5. Don't care.
Okay.
He's had 5 rings. He's had 5 rings. It's like, let's put it to you this way. He made it for one thing. He shouldn't really be there. And yep, that's true, Will. It's like he shouldn't even be there anymore. He should be getting in retirement. But think about this. He's lost 3 people now in the last 5 years, or about 5 or 6 years. 3 possible coaching replacements. Mm-hmm. They've got to remember, he had Tim Duncan for the one game. He was going to try to get him as a coach. There's no Tim Duncan anymore. You had the guy Becky Hammond. She went to the Aces. And then years before that, even Budenholzer. Budenholzer was that. And it's like, you lose all. Here's the deal.
You had Brett Brown too, though. Brett Brown was another guy that went over to Philadelphia. There's 4.
True. And it's like, these were possible replacements. So who's he going to get? So you might, especially when you got a 7'5" prodigy, you got a couple of other people to be able to help. You got to get all this. You might as well stick. You might as well stick around. And I find it funny that he's got a 3-year contract right now. And it's like, just more money for him to go out to dinner and have wine. But the one thing I found, the one thing I found funny was the number 2 pick, Brandon. What was his last name?
Brandon Miller, Alabama.
Yeah. He was saying, "Oh yeah, they're going to win they're going to win the title this year." I guess they don't think Jordan's going to be screwing up anymore.
I mean, to be fair, Jordan's out of the front office. I understand him saying that. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's why you understand they're going to win it all. Now it's no Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like with remember when Lamar Jackson got drafted and they were like, "Hey, they're going to get a Super Bowl out of me," So I mean, I can feel the level of confidence, but the Hornets just have so far. But the reason why I asked you that question with Popovich is because when it comes to coaches of today's era, the great that are already anointed as like among the greats, right? Like you figure. Popovich, Belichick, like all those guys, right? And Belichick won all his 6 with Tom Brady. Popovich won his 5 all with Tim Duncan. This is why I asked the question, is what pressure is it for him to win one without Tim Duncan? Because eventually that conversation is going to spin up. Was that Spurs dynasty because of Duncan or because of Popovich? Because post Brady, look at the Patriots' success after he left. And then post Tim Duncan, look at the Spurs' success since he left. This is why I asked the question, because you and I both know it's going to come up. It's going to come up.
You know who asked that question? It isn't legends like George and Scott here. They don't ask questions like that. Mm-hmm. You know who asks questions like that? 24-year-olds straight out of college and a bunch of nerds on Twitter.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that ask that question. These guys here don't ask that question. They already know what Popovich is. The 24-year-olds that ask that question, they don't like old people. They think that the old people ruin their chances or something. It's because they don't have a work ethic.
Right.
Period. End of story. So they don't like old people. They want to make excuses. No, there is no pressure. We already know Popovich is great, and he is also going to go to the playoffs with this kid the first year. We already know he's great. Who cares what the Twitter nerds say? Who cares what the 22-year-olds at the Los Angeles Times say, or the 25-year-olds at the New York Times? Who cares?
But Jacob,
they're straight from college, from a bunch of journalism professors that hate life.
But Jacob,
listen, go ahead, Scott.
Jacob, they'll get to the playoffs if the kid stays healthy.
We already have Chet Holmgren and his injury, but Chet Holmgren is nowhere as good as this kid.
Yeah, but again, I've seen it with a lot of great centers in the past. Okay.
Yeah.
When you get to the NBA, even though it's a patty cake baker's man game versus a real man game before, you're still having to deal with men who are much, much bigger. That's for sure. So, if he stays healthy his first year, I'm very realistic. Maybe they have a puncher's chance to get in the play-in, but that's all I'm going to say. Right. I'm a wait-and-see kind of person, and I've seen it through the years. I'm sorry, Denz, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. And Jacob, I see exactly what you're saying, because I said the same thing about Belichick. Because need I remind everybody at home and on this panel that Belichick won 2 rings as a defensive coordinator. I don't care what no one has to say. Super Bowl 25. That game was won more because of Belichick than Parcells.
Belichick.
That defensive scheme is in the Hall of Fame. This is why I tell everybody Belichick was great before he was a Patriot. He was great before he was a Pat. That defense is one of the best. We talk about the 2000 Ravens. We talk about the 2002 Buccaneers. We talk about the 85 Bears, and no one talks about the 90 Giants. Why? No one talks about the 90 Giants.
Understand. Belichick, you want to know his greatness as a coach. He won 8 and 9 games with Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones. Let me tell you this. You want to see how bad Mac Jones is? Throw him with another coach, any coach, because any other coach is going to take the leash off of him, and he's going to be horrible.
When Jeff Hostetler went to the Raiders, how did that end up?
The what?
When Jeff Hostetler went to the Raiders, how did that end up?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jacob, let's backtrack a little on that. I think the real telltale is when you have Bill O'Brien as your offensive coordinator. Just because you have Beavis and Butthead last year as your offensive coordinators, okay, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, the modern day version of Beavis and Butthead. Let's see if you have a real offensive coordinator in Bill O'Brien, much less a guy that worked with him. And we'll temper that one a little bit. But I don't know. If you were hashtagging it, folks, Beavis and Butthead made Basketbros.
Absolutely.
I agree with you, Jacob. Yeah, just my 2 cents. Popovich doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, and Belichick doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. We know that they're great, and like you said, the young people today have no appreciation for that. They're always going off and, what can he do now kind of thing.
Yeah, but the only thing I'm going to blame Popovich on is load management. That's all I'm going to blame him on.
That and taking Tim Duncan out in the final minute of Game 6. Those are the only 2 things I'll blame him for. And you know what? And understand, because y'all have been on many shows with me. Y'all know I have the gift of foresight. I know what people are gonna say. I know people that Jacob, you got it too. Scott, George, y'all got it too. You know, you can see these things spinning up. You can see them spinning up. You know, people become prisoners of the moment. Oh, the Steph Curry just dropped 60 points. Are the Warriors going to go undefeated? You know the type of questions that the media is going to ask. You know what I mean? So yeah. So yeah, you're right. It is the 24 to 28-year-old Twitter nerds that are going to ask this, and they're going to act like Popovich has won no rings in the past. You know, and like, oh well, this 7'5" Terminator, he's going to be the next great thing, and he very well might be. He very well might be, but let the man hit the court first and prove himself. You know, people who anoint, you know, people to GOAT straight out of the draft room, that often doesn't end well. You know,
that's right.
See, but I'll bring this. I'll bring this part up. I watched Luka in Europe. I'm watching this kid in Europe. These nerds, they don't watch anything past their own nose or some kind of cat on looking at playing yarn on Twitter or TikTok. They don't look past anything. How many of them actually watch those NBA games on NBA.com with the kid in Europe? I bet you not many. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I watched Luka then. That's why I wanted him in Atlanta. I watched this kid. This kid this is definitely not Chet Holmgren. He'll kill Chet Holmgren. I mean, Chet Holmgren, he has a lot of work to do. This kid is a very smart player. But it's like, and he's also got Popovich, so it's going to be. But I don't know, I'm not going to give absolute crap about what these kids say. I'm going to say kids because that's most of journalism. Yeah. I'm not going to give an absolute crap what they're going to say because anybody with a brain in their head is going to know he's made his
And see, the reason why you said that his pressure will be a 5 out of 10 is because the 5 are going to come from the very nerds that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But those who know, they already know who Popovich is, you know. I'm not sitting here saying the man's going to blatantly give you 4 losing seasons and be on cruise control. No, he's going to go out there and try to win a title, period, you know. But the man did win 5 rings. He did, you know. But we see that 4-letter word company over there, another 3-letter word over this way. They're going to say it. Can't even win one without Duncan. You know, so it just is what it is. But let's go on to our next topic here, and that's let's lighten the mood a little bit. Something funny. Basketbros moment in time, 2018 NBA Finals Game 1. J.R. Smith's gaffe at the end of regulation cost Cavs in 124-114 overtime loss to the Warriors. And those of you all who missed that moment, I feel bad for you because George Hill was at the free throw line, and he missed what would have been the go-ahead free throw with seconds remaining. J.R. Smith got the ball. He got the rebound. Instead of immediately putting it back up, he dribbled it out because he thought they already had the lead. And then when he realized that, oh, no, it was still tied, he then dished it off, and then they attempted an off three-pointer. Missed, went to overtime. They ended up losing 124-114. LeBron clearly was in distraught on camera, and he received a share of criticism for that. Oh man, I don't know how I feel about this. Before I pass it on to George, I'm on the fence about how LeBron reacted because number one, I get it. You know, it's televised. You probably shouldn't act that way on camera. But number two, I understand. You know how much of an idiot you have to be in the moment. They say at all times, all players, any sport, you're supposed to know how many timeouts you have remaining and, more importantly, what the damn score is. Right. So, with that being said, George, your thoughts on this moment. Do you think LeBron was a little over the top in his reaction, or was he justified?
Well, LeBron is being LeBron. No, I really, you're there. You should support your players. You support your teammates. LeBron obviously was upset. I mean, everybody was upset if you're a Cavaliers fan at that play. Then they got outscored 17-7 in overtime. So, and they were swept in the whole series, I believe, this series, Cleveland, by Golden State. So much is on J.R. Smith, but no, I don't think that LeBron. I mean, I know you want to, in a situation like that, I think you got to more or less support your guy. Hey, these things happen. I'm only human. Although I agree with you, Dens. I mean, you got to know these things. These are fundamental. I mean, Chris Webber, that famous calling for timeout, there's others in history that have bonehead plays that we've seen. But as far as support goes, it wasn't going to matter. But boy, that was a telltale sign in game one. That whole series went Golden State's way, and J.R. Smith, nice career, 12.4 shooting average or scoring average for his career, but he'll never live that one down. No way.
Yeah, I mean, he got his ring, like 2 years prior, but it's like this right here because it really could have set the tone good for the Cavs, like
Right.
in the series. You just put the ball back up, but I mean, it's an awareness thing. I would expect the type of mistake from I wouldn't even expect that type of mistake at the college level. I would expect that from like somebody at the high school level. Oh shoot, I'm just in the moment and I just kind of forgot, So, but I want to swing it over to Jacob here. And your thoughts on this whole moment. Was LeBron justified in his reaction, or did he go over the top?
He's a diva anyway. Who cares? But the thing
I should have asked you a different question. I knew that was coming. Go ahead.
Who cares? But here's the thing about JR. He played maybe another year, I believe, and he retired. Maybe 2, I don't know. He retired, and then he went to an HBCU, I believe it's North Carolina A&T, and he's into college golf now. It's no question in my mind that his head at art. If he did that and he did not know what the score was or anything like that, and he wasn't paying attention, his mind had checked out of basketball. His mind checked out of basketball, which happens with athletes. It happens with athletes. It happens all the time. I've met tennis players who say how much they hate being professionals, but they have nothing else that they can do because they've been playing since they're 4 years old. Sometimes they don't win as much. A lot of these athletes don't win as much because their head checks out. They'd like to be doing something else. J.R. Smith found something else. In North Carolina A&T, he's in college golf now, and he's more than happy. So I'm happy for him right now. As far as LeBron, he can cry about 100,000 things.
I hear that. And then lastly, Scott, your thoughts on this? Same question essentially. You think LeBron went over the top, or was he totally justified? Now, I ask everybody to kind of, put yourself in, LeBron's shoes. You're a captain of a team, and your teammate commits that ill of a mistake, and it's like, do you kind of understand where LeBron? But I don't. Just go ahead, Scott. Do you think he was justified, or you think he was over the top?
Many years ago in Vero Beach, I talked to Grady Little about allowing Pedro Martinez to stay in long. He said, "Listen, Scott, this is a big stage. Okay, stuff happens. Players' minds start to work in different wonders." I actually am going to have a show I do want to mention tonight, now that you brought it on, tomorrow night on No Limits with former Kansas City Royal shortstop Buddy Biancalana, and we're going to have it on No Limits tomorrow around 8:30 Eastern time. He's going to talk about athletes that are like when they're in they're in the zone. Getting back to this, so I hope that a lot of people can watch it tomorrow night. We're really working on it. Secondly, I'm not going to beat J.R. Smith up at all. I'm really not, and I'll tell you why. It's a big moment. Yeah, did he not? Did he have a little bit of a lapse there in terms of judgment? Yeah, but everybody does. I mean, think about it. You're going to sit here and crucify Bill Buckner. That's probably why he's not in the Hall of Fame anyway. It's a mistake that he made during that one series with the Red Sox. No, I'm not going to do that. I mean, it happens. No, let us forget what his cumulative stats are, and they were really good, but you got caught up in one moment. Now, okay, Jacob, here's where I'm with you. LeBron James is a first-class drama king.
Queen.
Well, either one. He's a drama king, queen, whatever. Okay. DRAMA. My new word for saying the NBA is NDL, the National Drama League. That's what you've got. I don't care about trades coaches. I mean, that happens in every sport. Throwing a player under the bus, to me, makes you weaker. You have to support this guy any way you can, regardless of what happens.
He's a walking reality show. LeBron is.
I didn't hear you.
He's a walking reality show.
That's what he is. Yeah, but the reality is, I don't believe under no uncertain terms, no matter how hard it is, that you call out your player and throw him under the bus. Period.
Right.
Things happen in big moments. They really do. I don't care what anybody says. There was a tough time for J.R. Smith. Yeah. How's he doing well after? Well, to me, it's one of those deals where life went on, has a championship ring. LeBron James is hanging on because that's what he's done. How many games is he playing a year now? 50 to 60? Will he qualify for any more awards because he can't make the necessary amount? So Hey, you know what? I will always say this. I know it's part of the topic, but I will tell you that Jordan, to me, is way better than LeBron James will ever be. I don't care what LeBron James, to me, okay, couldn't even carry Jordan's jockstrap. That's how far I'm going to go with this thing. I really am. So, you know, LeBron get a life. I think the only reason he's playing basketball is to ultimately play with his kid. Otherwise, I think he's semi checked out. I'll leave JR alone. We're not talking about JR Ewing in Dallas where somebody wanted to shoot him. We're talking JR Smith.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it with that.
All right. Well,
You never thought we'd be talking about that on this show, did you?
That's
better. I know, right? Another time, though, right? But well, you know, another bit of recent news here, in keeping up with recent events, and that is, so point guard CP3 has been traded to the Warriors. Shooting guard Jordan Poole was traded to the Wizards. So 2 questions I'd like to ask the panel here, because we kind of thought that CP3 was pretty much done. Maybe, you know, 2 years ago, he went to the finals with the Suns. They lost, and then that was it. People were saying, like, you know, hey, his championship window's closed. Now here he is with a better, who a lot of people would deem a better team. You know, it all depending upon who, how they'll utilize him and whatnot. Pretty much, he's riding on coattails at this point. Jordan Poole, meanwhile, you know, younger, he had his moments where he was deemed the third splash brother. He can have his streaky times. He had his controversy with Draymond Green. Now he's essentially put in a position to where he can be a team leader. He's probably going to be the number 1 on that team because they did get rid of Bradley Beal. But I want to go around the panel. I'll start off with our guest, George, here. And 2 questions. 1, can Jordan Poole be a leader in DC? And number 2, is this Chris Paul's last chance at a championship? Go.
Well, I am confident that Poole can be definitely a leader. You know, I saw him play at University of Michigan. I've seen what he did with the Golden State Warriors. I'm very high on him. He's a good kid. And I know that he had his difficulties with Draymond Green, but a lot of people had difficulties. And I really think that Poole definitely can be a leader. But you got to remember, we're talking about a team that really has a lot of pieces missing, the Wizards. So it's not going to be an easy ride for him. You know, they obviously have to get more help than just Poole, but I think it's a good trade for Washington. As far as Chris Paul goes, you know, the question is going to be, does Golden State have enough firepower and do they have enough desire to go the long distance again to try to win another championship? You know, he certainly has proven he can play good ball and he's certainly a good player, but the whole thing comes down to chemistry, Dens. There's got to be chemistry there. And with the uncertainty of Draymond Green, if he's definitely going to be gone or else is he going to still settle to come back with the Warriors, that remains to be seen. But I think Paul is a good asset to them. But again, these guys are getting a little bit older too out in Golden State, and they've played a lot of games over a lot of seasons to win all those championships. So it's going to take a humongous effort. Paul possibly could, but I guess I'm 50-50 on that one.
Okay. And, you know, that's fair enough. I think that, and again, you know, I'm not expecting him to be the team leader or anything like that as far as Chris Paul. Poole's more set up to be the team leader. It's just a matter of, can he get it done? There probably are many reservations regarding that. But I did want to swing it. But then again, okay, I'm just going to say it. Harden was a 6th man and to lead the Rockets, and it's anybody. I already know how Jacob feels about this and such, but the man did win scoring titles. The man did win a most valuable player.
All-time great. I know that. All-time great ISO. I get that. I've never not.
And you know what? We'll just go ahead and go to Jacob next, and that is, do you think that this is CP3's last chance? And also, do you think Jordan Poole can be a leader for the Wizards?
Here's a story of a lovely lady. Oh, no. But it is Paul's last chance. There's no question. But see, we brought up a couple of weeks ago, okay, did Harden would have a chance if he went to Golden State, if you rode on coattails. No, this is Paul that would have the chance if you ride on coattails. Because the biggest thing about it is we have seen way more than enough times with Harden. He can't help himself. He can't stay out of the way. He'll either go 2 for 15 or he'll get 7 turnovers or both. He can't keep himself out of the way to be able to do that. Chris Paul, plus the fact I see that when I see Chris Paul, I don't think he's thinking about strip clubs every time he's on the court. So there's the big thing. I think he wants to win. I just think his brain freezes up. So you'd have to go on, and it is his final chance. But as far as Jordan Poole, my issue with him, he can definitely be, if you give yourself time, but can he mature? I mean, we have news stories. He got himself knocked out, which proves you better know how to throw down if you're going to mouth off. Yeah, or just keep your mouth shut. That's just the thing about life. That's what life is in itself. That's what you learn as an adult. But a second thing, he goes on a date with somebody and spends $500,000 in one night. And it's like, does he have the maturity to do this type of thing before he goes broke? And these are the little things you think about. It's like, guess what? Maturity in real life can translate on the court. So I'm not sure with him if he can settle himself down, mature himself to be the leader. So, but as far as Paul, yeah, it is his last chance, no question. But he's the one that can go on somebody's coattails to win the ring, not Harden.
Absolutely. And then lastly, I want to swing it over to Scott and get your thoughts about the trade. And also, do you feel that Poole can be a leader? And is this CP3's last chance?
Well, here's what you have here. Number one, the trade of Jordan Poole to the Wizards was a ploy to keep Draymond Green in Golden State, because everybody talks about that incident they had last year during training camp. Well, you got rid of this guy, right? Now he goes to the Wizards, where the cupboard's going to be literally stripped bare. So yeah, does he have a chance to be the go-to guy? Without a doubt. But the question is what kind of talent does he have? And I'll go back to what Jacob said. Is he mature enough to be able to handle what's in front of him in DC? Because he's not going to have a much better coach in DC than what you have over at Golden State with Steve Kerr. You really don't. So, and I'll piggyback off of George for a moment. Okay, can Chris Paul win a title? Don't see any reason why he couldn't. But again, you're talking about a guy who will get coached by Steve Kerr. But the only thing I wonder, like what George mentioned too, is do these guys that are currently left have any gas in the tank, or are they too old? So I think that Chris Paul would have had a championship ring 2 or 3 years ago in this group, without a doubt. Remember, this is the same guy that the NBA worked so hard to feverishly keep out of LA with the Lakers. And when they were taking over the team, when the Pelicans were in dire straits until they needed a new owner. So, yeah, I think it's his last chance in Golden State. But Jordan Poole's situation, to me, I knew this was a ploy to keep Draymond Green. You know, take it for what you have there. A ploy. PLOY exclamation point 5 times, 10 times over. But he's going to have a shot to lead a team. We'll see what he does with it.
I'm going to ask Denzel here. Is he doing a late cleanup for a girlfriend coming over? I think because I saw him dishing around with all of the stuff to clean the papers up. It's either mom or a girlfriend coming over.
Well, to be fair, you do know how, how some people act in high school when they were sneaking company in and out of mom's house.
Yeah.
But we do have to move on real quick. We got 4 more topics before we end here, and that is and this one right here actually was Scott's, and Will Chamberlain's rookie jersey apparently sold for $1.79 million. I thought it should have been a little bit more than that, but I mean, 1.79 mil. You can't really hate on that one. But I'll let Scott lead us off on that one. Scott, your thoughts on this one?
Well, more power to a living legend, because somebody wanted your wares way back when. I can only imagine what his jersey would be like when he won a championship, how much that would be worth. But Wilt Chamberlain, to me, is everything that was good about the NBA. And if somebody's going to pick up $1.79 million to buy his jersey, more power to him. I really think it's pretty cool. But again, let's find out what his championship jersey is like, and then I'd certainly like to compare and contrast some numbers here. But it was big news this week, and you're talking about a guy that scored 100 points in a basketball game, right? So more power to him. Rest in peace, Wilt. You made out well with the estate, $1.79 million for your rookie jersey. Who's next?
Yeah, who knows? Oh, hey, yeah, he's getting his cleanup again. No, this was brought up that you thought it should be more than 1.79 million. You got to realize something. When you talk about these new players, top 5 that they would go with to win their own NBA title, their all-time greats, like Wembanyama picked up 3 current guys, and then Shaq and Jordan. Then there was a couple of guys that did their 5, and it was 4 guys that were current and Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Our generation's not there anymore. I have to think about every single time. My hero growing up's been gone 30 years now. 30 years. Larry Bird's been gone 30 years. There are people they're not going to remember it. YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you can watch his greatness. But if you don't know, you don't know. They look at the white guy with short shorts. So this is the thing. They bring this part up. The reason about this is the fact that, and here's the thing: Will Chamberlain died in '99. He died in '99. That's a big deal. A lot of people never got to meet him to be able to do this type of thing. So yeah, the price goes down with that. If Wilt's still alive, or he lives around like Bill Russell, or even lives to like 2012 or 14, that thing doubles. That price doubles because at that point people have been able to meet him. They hear his stories and don't have to go to YouTube. They hear it personally because he was a great storyteller. They'd hear that, but he's been gone since '99. That is over 20 years. So when someone dies, the price will go down unless you're a painter.
Well, I'll tell you what, here in South Florida, though, he did have a restaurant, but it didn't last very long. But somebody tried to use his name to have a restaurant, but didn't quite work out.
Yeah. Let's see.
I think that's an exorbitant amount of money, 1.7. I mean, I couldn't believe it when Scott sent that to us as a topic for tonight because I thought it was really, really unbelievably high. But then again, these rookie cards, these autographed rookie cards from some of these players are just like gold. I mean, if you get a rookie card from, oh my God, name the player, Mickey Mantle or not Babe Ruth, but anybody, Hank Aaron, all that, they are worth gold. Obviously they have to be autographed, but the thing is that he was and still is a great, great name for the game. Like you said, Scott, over 100 points a game. I mean, that the one game that he played, 100 points, unbelievable, never be matched in NBA history. He's a legend of the game, obviously, as was Bill Russell and many others. But Jacob, I did not know he's been gone that long. I would have never guessed he's been dead that many years. But you bring up a good point about the young people of today. He's just a distant memory or somebody they've never even heard of, and so it's kind of cool that they got that much for it. I really didn't think they would get that much, but he was one of the greatest.
Oh yeah, and that is the thing, and that's the big deal about it. I have to remember these things. It's like to have my hero still be in top 10s at just about 97% of everybody's world still says his greatness, especially with the goes. But you know something? Another generation that'll be gone. Another generation that'll be gone, and I can't take it personally. No, because I can't take it personally. The guy's been gone 30 years, and considering how much weight he's lost, and what his legs look like, and everything like that, he probably doesn't have a long time on Earth either, especially for being tall. So people are going to lose him too. So that's just the big thing. It's the fact you can't take it personally with anything. But here's the thing about Wilt. If this guy was in this league now, he would overly dominate it. This is a 300-pound Wembanyama. As far as the thought process and mindset, he was the all-time. Not only is he the greatest basketball player of all time, or one of them, he's the greatest volleyball player of all time.
Oh yeah,
and I mean, it's everything like that. Plus the fact he was an actor. plus the fact he did have a business owner, plus the fact, and plus plus a forever bachelor, which everybody gets that luck, you know. The biggest thing about Wilt is his death helped his business, if you will, in our head, even though we have kids that don't know it, but it helped YouTube, it helped everything because you have a myth now.
Right.
You have the myth with all those stories, and they were true. With all those stories, and the thing is, he would double if he'd be alive longer, but at the same time, you can also do that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jacob. I'd say on my parting shots, y'all will hear from me on why I had to get off camera just now. But no, absolutely. You know, as far as his rookie jersey and it's selling for as much as it did, you know, I can only imagine how many other rookie jerseys and how much more it's going to sell. Kind of as a foresight for the future, you know, how much his Jordans would sell for, how much would LeBron sell for, how much would Kareem sell for, and so forth, you know. But now, great, you know, on the one who bought it, I'm pretty sure it was some business owner. I don't know who bought it or anything like that, but they most definitely have a bit of a treasure to pass on to their own generations, unless they decide to sell it themselves. But we do have 10 minutes left to get through essentially 3 topics here. So real quick, average salaries of 4 major professional sports leagues. The NHL is at the least at $2.6 million. Then the NFL at $3.2 million. Major League Baseball $4 million. NBA skyrockets to $8.3 million. These are average salaries of the 4 major professional sports leagues. And I want to start off with Scott, because this was your topic suggestion, and your thoughts on this.
Well, number one, the reason why NBA is so high is, number one, it's not on tape delay. Okay. Number two, you have 16-man rosters, where the other ones have much bigger rosters. And let's face it, they can pay they have guaranteed contracts. They really do. So, you know, you're going to pay for a lot of money for an NBA team, which is why I think a lot of cities would get one that are small markets. More power to them, but we'll find out what happens with the next collective bargaining agreement at some point or another. It's going to be one of those situations where it eventually comes down if they're getting too greedy. And a lot of that average is really raised a little higher because of the elite players, which drives the numbers up a little bit. We know that in the NHL, they don't have a real big major contract. If you think ESPN and TNT and whatever the Canadian markets are going to bring you up there, no. MLB, you know, they have guaranteed contracts. They play 162 games. You know what, the NBA plays 81 or 82. So, you know, your averages are going to go down by virtue there. And then the NFL doesn't have any guaranteed money, and they have larger rosters. So I think a lot of this has to do with roster size. I really, really do. And guaranteed contracts, you know, that factors into both. I'm not surprised that the NBA is higher, but again, a lot of that's attributed to roster size, games, and then average. And we all know full well that the NFL, you're really basically on a one contract anyhow. Prove it deal. They'll restructure your contract in a heartbeat.
Yeah, not to mention, you know, I mean, well, let's face it, the 6th running back that on the depth chart who came out in the 6th rounds getting paid like 400-something thousand. You know, like what was Russell Wilson's rookie contract? Wasn't his like only 400,000 like a year, something like that? It was somewhere around there. But I wanted to swing it to George and get your thoughts about the
George.
Say again.
You say Jordan or George?
I said George. Hey, George, okay. George Jordan, because he's the GOAT of Detroit. Come on in. Let us know your thoughts about this topic.
Yeah, those G's and J's run together, Jacob. But I was surprised. You know, kudos to Candy and Scott for putting this stat out in front of us today. This is unbelievable. The money these guys are making. Come on. $8.3 million, the average salary in the NBA. Oh, yeah, but don't forget load management, man. I got to watch my playing time. I got to rest my my legs and my knees, man. Unbelievable, you know, and it's not all of them. I get it. And like Scott says, you know, they're into multi-year contracts and all that. I get it. But I was shocked. I was shocked that NFL was number 3 at $3.2 million on average.
Yeah.
But because that's America's game. I mean, obviously the NFL is number one. Hockey doesn't surprise me at all. As Scott mentioned, the guys there do not have a good television contract. Bettman finally got ESPN to come back, and he's got Turner Broadcasting as well. But, and that's always going to be the last of the four majors, obviously, the NHL. But boy, oh boy, these guys are cleaning up in the NBA with these contracts and not making it worth it for a lot of the fans, because some of them are just not performing up to snuff. So, I think that you're going to get that kind of money, then I, as a fan or anybody out there, is going to demand a lot from you as far as winning and putting out your best effort every single night, every single game. And so many guys in the NBA don't want to do that. End of my story.
Gotcha. And lastly, we'll go to Jacob real quick. Your thoughts about this?
Well, see, here's the thing about the NHL. They're never going to get a big to go past that time. They're always going to be number 4, because, just for an example, the whole situation with the gay pride jerseys. This week they decided. I mean, the Bettman had to say, we're not going to do any special jerseys anymore because they're not going to have the gay pride jerseys anymore. Which the players won that fight. They didn't want them. Majority of the players did not want that, and they won the fight. With that said, the players won, and the players have more of a family element to themselves, but they lost a lot of sponsorships doing that. A lot of possible sponsorships to do that. They're always going to have a lower salary thing to do that. At the same time, with the NHL, we're always going to see a lot harder workers for a lot harder workers in the Stanley Cup, and that's what we're going to see, because none of them ever take a day off. So that's what you're going to see. But see, here's the thing. You won't see that kind of attitude with NBA. NBA will do it. NBA will do all that kind of stuff with the sponsorships. So will Major League Baseball. We already seen that. NFL doesn't have to worry about it because it's not in that season. Pride is not in that season for the NFL to have to worry about it. But the whole pride thing with the NHL is going to keep them from getting the sponsorships to be able to bring their salaries up, to be able to bring money up. But here's the question. Do they care? I don't think so. Like, just the NBA won't care, because they will fall. They will, now what you call fall in line. They're all for it. So they're all for it. So those are the little things that we have to think about. It's the business end of everything now, and there's a social end to it too.
Yes, absolutely. With the I can remember back in the mid '90s when the highest paid of the four was baseball. Like, I remember Bond signing like a $35 million deal, which was like the highest contract in sports at the time period. Nowadays, a $35 million contract's like a 2-year deal, So
$35 million contract is probably Trubisky if he has a good season off the bench.
Exactly, I know George and Scott definitely remember Derek Coleman of the New Jersey Nets signed like a $3 million deal in like 1991, and that was the highest deal in the NBA at the time. $3 million.
Well, you want to know a funny story about Derek Coleman? He bought my parents' former house out in Highland, White Lake, Michigan.
He did. I remember, Scott.
And you know what happened? He eventually ran it to the ground.
Oh boy,
a lot of problems with Derek.
I actually saw that place, and that was in rough shape.
And you know what? The young fans of today, and this is something I know Scott knows. Al Kaline was in the office. Al Kaline, the great Tiger. He turned down $100,000. He said to the owner, John Fetzer, and the general manager, Jim Campbell, I don't deserve $100,000 yet. Now, you talk about dating yourself. I mean, I go back that far. But when's the last time you heard a player come in there and say, no, I don't deserve that. Please don't give me that.
So let me ask you a question. How long would it take for an NHL player to earn $35 million?
Oh, I'll give you, Ovechkin. But no, I'm just saying.
Ovechkin or maybe Evander Kane, but go ahead.
Yeah, right. He probably bet that. He probably bet that in 6 months. But the biggest thing is Larry Bird retired, and they were trying to sneak his money in there so he could play another year, because they knew he'd play another year. And he says, no. I'm ready to go. Don't sneak that money in on me. You know I have to play if I have the money. So get that away from me. Yeah. So
excellent.
His was like $6 million, and he turned it down.
Crazy. Yeah. What was his deal in '86? I know you mentioned it one time, Jacob. What was his deal in '86?
Like $2.5–3 million.
Yeah, something. Yeah, That was it was something around there. I remember Derek Coleman's deal. His was right around like the 3 or 4, and I was like, wow, like that. At that time period, it's crazy. But we are running short on time here, so real quick, just want to get to the Basketbros party chats, and I'll kick it off, and then I'll bring everybody on screen one by one. So the apparently the report is that the Grizzlies had an interest in Draymond Green for trading for Marcus Smart. Man, that is interesting. Because people kind of think like they have kind of this new rivalry going on. And so first of all, I don't think Green is ever leaving his brothers. I don't think so. I think that if he were to leave, it should have been years ago. I'm not saying that the man is past his prime or anything like that, but people talk about is the Warriors dynasty over with. The Warriors dynasty is over with once number 30 retires. Period. Y'all have heard me say this on the show and on other platforms. Okay. Period. Point blank. Only then will maybe Draymond or Clay consider going to another team. But Draymond Green on the Grizzlies, I mean, it's weird, but at the same time, it kind of fits. Like I think Draymond and the Grizzlies, they are so alike that they clash. Think about, that person that where you're so alike that you clash, but here they were considering, well, not considering, but the Grizzlies were considering, bringing them on board. I think it was odd, but yeah, that didn't happen. The Grizzlies got Marcus Smart, and all was right in their world again until Ja gets his extra.
All right. Well, I want to talk about the fact that the New York Knicks declined Derrick Rose's $15.6 million option. Rose, to me, came out as a top player out of Memphis and had a pretty good career for the most part, but the biggest issue has been the injury bug. Last year, he fell out of the rotation because he averaged 5.6 points in 27 contests, and he's 34 years old. I have a feeling that Derrick Rose could still continue to play, but if he thinks he's getting anywhere near $15.6 million, sorry, Christmas is several months away. But the next thing, if they can keep him on an inexpensive deal, they will. But I'd still like to go out there and see Rose land someplace. But does he have anything in the tank? And can he stay on the court? Those are the two things that will heavily be considered when and should he get another contract offer. So we'll see. You always like to think your number one picks could play 15, 20 years. Derrick Rose's situation is one of those things where let's just hope he can go on and have a few more successful years so he can lead the game on his own terms.
My parting shot is one that I've thought about for a while, obviously, and that's the NBA All-Star Game. And once again, Detroit is being denied the All-Star Game. And I know it takes a lot of money and a lot of effort, but we've got a great Detroit Sports Commission set up here that goes after these big events, okay? We landed another NCAA Final Four coming up down the road. We landed two more U.S. Open golf tournaments at Oakland Hills coming up. We landed the draft, the NFL draft next April in downtown Detroit. So Adam Silver, please, come on, give Detroit an all-star game. They haven't had one since back in the Pontiac Silverdome, believe it or not. You got to go all the way back to when the Pistons played at the Pontiac Silverdome and they had an NBA All-Star game so they could pack the place and set a record attendance. But it's high time Detroit gets the NBA All-Star game, Adam Silver, and let's get it done.
One of the things that we need to say real quickly is, and not that you need any kind of advice, Popovich, but here's a little piece anyway. Get some post moves on Wembanyama. And the only reason I say this, it's not him. We already know he'll shoot his threes. We already know he can drive the lane, and he's got a big stork length. He can do what he wants. But get him those, because if he gets those types of post moves, then you can get it on Embiid, who says this ain't the game anymore. You need to start doing this because we can't have the game decided on if they're terrible, if three-pointers are terrible and it's really boring, or if it's really exciting and everybody's hitting them. And that's a 38% shot. We need to start getting more moves in there. Wembanyama can be that guy to start it.
All right.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. All right, and absolutely. And then our guy Smoking Jeremy B in the comments, he had a parting shot as well. Allow him to do old school defense again. Joker's considered boring because he has a throwback type of center. Kudos to him. This is what I have to say in response to that. I agree with you because people love to say, oh, man, well, Joker's boring and this and that and so forth. You want to know who else they called boring? Tim Duncan. He has 5 rings. You know who else they called boring? Alabama Crimson Tide football. Saban's now won 6. So I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather be boring because boring gets it done. Exactly. Yeah. Boring equals winning. So,
hey, Jen, put Smoking Jeremy B's comment about Wembayana. This is really good.
Wembayana missed a third of his games in the European League, including 2 of 3 playoff runs by his team. I wonder why that is. It may have been an issue that we covered tonight. So, with that said, I'd like to thank Scott for rushing back here after the game to join us on the panel here. Much props to George Eichorn for coming on. Thank you very much. And as always, you're welcome on the show. And then there's Jacob over there. Who cares about him? So for Denzel Snipes, and I see that 5 o'clock shadow. So for Denzel Snipes and Jacob Ramon over there, Scott Eichorn and George Eichorn and Scott Morganroth, man. I'm checked out here, guys. It's time to end this.